Hi everyone, and welcome to the most exciting design event of 2020, the Design Inspire conference presented to you by UXG ValueLabs. The thought of inclusion and a spirit to serve the design community globally started this series in June. Now we are at the culmination of this year's series with the annual conference. We have a great show on our cards, so let's start with the welcome note by Ms. Kadambri Sahu, Head of Design at ValueLabs. Over to you, Kadambri, for the welcome note.
The theme of this year's conference is hope and resilience. This year has been a unique one. Hundreds of thousands of people have lost their lives due to COVID 19. Millions have lost their jobs and livelihood. Many of us have seen this at close quarters and it can be devastating. The only recourse is to be hopeful about the future and resilient enough to get through these trying times. The context of hope and resilience for me seems to be in the very fabric of design, where we always feel that at any given point of time, we as designers hope that things will be better by design, and we try to build resilience into any systems we are designing. This spirit needs to be invoked now more than ever. But doing something responsibly needs better awareness and understanding. This was the thought behind Design Inspire. I started Design Inspire as a talk series for user experience group at Value Labs as a way of understanding design better by getting to know the path and actions taken by some incredible young designers with great potential. The series features 10 eminent designers who resonated with our values of diversity in all aspects. The conversations we had with them took us into their everyday lives, often bringing to light the way they've confronted chaos and creatively resolved challenges posed by the ever changing discipline of design, while allowing us to truly understand the passion they brought to the table. At the same time, it also brought to light our strong belief in diversity of thought and thoughtful multidisciplinary exploration of problems faced by users. Following our DNA of Value Labs to do the right thing always, it made us feel uneasy as a team to keep this series only to us. We knew the right thing to do was to share this knowledge with everyone and create awareness one episode at a time. Today marks the culmination of the series for this year and the transformation of the idea into a conference in which we are honoring the 10 inspiring young designers of 2020. While we do so to enrich us even further and build in us hope and resilience in the testing times like these, we have eminent designers, design leaders who are here to share with us some of their wisdom and hopefully to inspire us to lead a life full of curiosity and creativity. We also have the top three finalists of the 24-hour Designathon presenting their ideas for adapting to these changing times by creating awareness and facilitating learning. So let's begin with the conference, and I'll let Ankit introduce to the first guest tonight. Over to you, Ankit.
Thank you, Kadambri. Thank you for that amazing start to the conference. Let's go ahead and let me just introduce you to the first guest speaker of tonight. Our first guest speaker is Namita Savla. Little bit about Namita. Namita Savla is currently working at ABB Motion as Global Lead User Experience Designer at Helsinki, Finland. Her role as a core design strategist is to manage and design experiences and services of all the digital products at ABB Motion business line. At core, she is a visionary and strategist who works to solve complex problems by following human-centered design process, design thinking ideology, and service design processes to create products, service, and systems that produces superior value for B2B customers of ABB. This leads ABB to energize the transformation of society and industry to achieve a more productive and a sustainable world. So let's go ahead and listen to her talk. Over to you, Namita.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here on this portal to talk about design. So I would be today giving you a perspective from my experience through the topic of empowering designers in B2B environment. Let's start. So empowering designers in B2B environments actually starts with three key points. As you know, the B2B environment can be very complex So we can start with designers' surroundings, design disciplines, design principles, and make designers equipped. How do we do that? So starting with the designer surrounding, um, as you understood that I work in ABB, I would be introducing myself as from the organization ABB. So ABB is a leading global technology company that energizes the transformation of society and industry to achieve a more productive, sustainable future. By connecting software to its electrification, robotics, automation, and motion portfolio, ABB pushes the boundaries of technology to drive performance to new level, which with a history of excellence stretching back more than 130 years. So ABB has 4 core values: courage, care, curiosity, and collaboration. People of the organization play a key role to create superior customer experience, also support in writing the future together. First we do is identify user groups. Later we involve these user groups in a dialogue, creating insights from around the world. Using these insights and design thinking approach and tools as basis for collaboration and co-creating solutions together. Now let's see how ABB does this.
Machines speak a complex language, but progress starts with understanding. So we involve them in a dialogue to generate insight for our experts, partners, and customers around the world. Together, we create solutions that were once unthinkable. This is the beginning of a new era. Let's write the future. Together. ABB.
Okay, I move on to the environment. Design culture creates the needed environment for the designers to develop and flourish in the organization. At Motion Design Team, we have team vision. By 2025, ABB Motion has a strong human-centered design culture where design is known, valued, and actively utilized in all functions and all levels of the organization as process, insight, and strategy. Design disciplines and design principles play a key role. Collaboration among disciplines allow us to achieve the ever-growing demands from a designer. In Motion Design Team, we have 3 design disciplines which work in tight collaboration. We adopt each other's tools and methods to give high-performance output. Being aware of the disciplines outside design domain brings us close to our stakeholders, like from management, marketing and sales, communication, and it makes it's easy for us to talk to them in their language and terminologies. Also, working in collaboration and co-creation solution together will build end-to-end superior customer experience. This is a collaboration model we have adopted. It would be necessary for empowered designers to have such kind of collaboration models. Design principles are important aspects of our work. User-centered design is mostly practiced when the focus is on a particular segment of user. But on ABB Motion Design Team, we adopt human-centered design as it is an overarching framework of processes, that integrates a broad set of activities to understand different stakeholders' needs and offer the design solution accordingly. While design thinking is an human-centered approach for problem solving and is commonly applied to tackle different issues related to, for example, design, social issues, innovation, and business. We follow human-centered design principles in Motion Design Team by focusing upon the people, identifying the fundamental problems, considering holistic view as a system, validating design decisions. You can apply human-centered design to approach and challenges and tackle it. Design processes. This is a topic which is very close to my heart. It's a method to communicate the way we work. There are different representations of design process around us. They mostly have discover, define, design, and deliver as phases. which are diverging and converging in nature to produce outcomes in the end. So identifying your own design process and following the process thoroughly is the key here. At Motion Design team, we have developed our own design process based on the needs from the organization. We have understanding phase, designing phase, and delivering phase. The design process is iterative and we validate each phase before moving on to the next phase. We have also developed a set of tools and templates for each phase that support designers in bringing the needed value through the design. The other important aspect in communicating the way of working is through design systems and tools. ABB has defined design system with branding, color, logo, fonts, icons, UI components, etc., supporting designers as well as developers to achieve consistency and harmony. Of course, we have our favorite design tools, which we love to use, but sketching is a tool I personally feel we all should practice more as it inspires our creativity. Empowered designers in B2B environment have first, a strong surrounding, organizational value and people, collaborative working model with different disciplines, use of human-centered design principles as a base, and empowered designers create harmonized and consistent outcome. I hope this perspective would support designers to be empowered in their own way of working, and I thank you for the opportunity.
So after that wonderful talk by Namita, moving on, Lorinda Mahmood said, every great design begins with an even better story. Designathon, which is our 24-hour flagship design hackathon event for design students this year, has been nothing short of a great story. 90 plus teams, 200 plus design students came together to work on a design problem and came up with the 90 brilliant solutions to solve it. Tonight, we have our top 3 teams out of the 90 participating teams here with us to present their ideas. The theme for this year's Designathon was adapting to the changing times, creating awareness, facilitating learning and education. In this Designathon brief, each team had to come up with concepts, services, or interactions that will bring hope and build resilience. So let's go ahead with our first team of the night. Team's name is Light and Dark, and let's listen to their approach to the Designathon problem. So over to you, Team Light and Dark. Please go ahead with the presentation.
Hello everyone, I'm Srishti. I'll be representing Team Light and Dark on behalf of Urvi and I, who have done this project together. I'm going to start sharing my screen now. Am I audible? Is my screen visible? These are the common questions I think most of us hear these days. That's where our journey started too. And we started thinking how people who cannot see or cannot hear, how are they dealing with the situation? So we started doing our research and we found out that around 12 million children in India alone are disabled in different ways, out of which 75% never went to school, even pre-COVID times. So you can imagine the scenario now. It's probably shooting to 100%. That's where we decided that we want to research on the influencing factors of well-being and education for these students. We started off by digging into some secondary data, and we found different sources of how people in terms of government, local communities, individuals, schools, teachers were coping with the solutions, the situation, and what they were doing previous to this. We came up with 4 broad categories of special needs, which were out of which we found developmental to be the most a category that was very overlooked and something that needed more action. So when I say developmental, I mean ADHD, autism, such kind of needs. So the children of these of this category are basically very they need individual attention to learn, and they need they have unique learning equipments which they learn from through schools. And also they do not like change very well, so they do not react very well to it. They have different means of coping towards it. Moreover, there's hardly any support from the government or local community towards this special need. So we decided to go forward with this, and we fixed on our statement as to how we can transfer the responsibility of quality education from the schools to their home environments. So for that, we first started on looking as to how at every level the child is connected to different people and what their roles are. So we could further analyze this by speaking to some specialists. By specialists, I mean therapists, special educators, health coordinators. Then we also got a chance to speak to some of the caregivers like parents, guardians, and the child. And we understood their pain points, gain points from the pre and post, not post, during COVID scenario. So we try to make sense out of all of it. And yes, we came up with this, a very essential tool for children, which is basically comprising of resource, knowledge, and a facilitator. So pre-COVID, all of these were given by specialists through schools, and parents would provide additional resources if possible. During this time, the entire responsibility has shifted to the parents. Now, the parents do not have so much expertise with which they can, carry forward all of these tasks with ease. We have the specialists. Now, they have tried contacting and connecting directly with the children, but that's not a very feasible option because the attention span of these children are very low. So we have the specialists guiding the parents to do all of these, which is quite an exhaustive process for them, which is where we came up with a platform called Guru. Guru helps smoothen this process of transfer of knowledge from specialists to parents by providing a knowledge bank of resources. And the parents can also have a guided process. So in a usual scenario, the teacher would take care of something called an individual education plan or IEP. This is what every child's education is based upon. So we are going to look at what IEP has further to it. The components of an IEP are basically what the current academic performance of the student is, their strengths and need areas, and some goals that the teacher sets in order to achieve a set amount of, say, those goals. To achieve them, the teacher sets some strategies and a time frame through which they can achieve it. But all of this was done by the teacher. It's a continuous process, and what happens here is they gather information about the child, they set a direction, and then they implement a plan of action. They review this and keep updating it. So it's something that goes on non-stop, which has suddenly come to a stop. So the core idea of how a child can progress is not monitored or is not visible. So this is what Guru does. It takes inputs from parents, and it provides that to the specialists, and the specialists in order guide the parents. So meet Guru, an app to empower parents to facilitate education. What happens when the parent first signs up is they're asked for the child's basic details with their name, age, and preferred language of communication so that the content can be tailored to the child's needs. Next, when the parent enters the app, they are guided to take an assessment. This assessment is basically a child developmental milestone assessment plan, which is in form of a progressive questionnaire. This is what identifies and sets what at every level what the child should be able to do. So it's a process of monitoring. How the assessment, we have split it to the 4 main categories of child development. At this point, the parent can also upload a past IEP of the child, which would help the specialist to analyze the child's needs better. Questions in simple formats would be asked and tracked. Now, depending on the questions tracked, there's a report generated which is looked upon by the specialist, and the specialist is then connected with the parent. Now, the specialist has all the information about the child. The specialist now looks at what the parents' needs are, because the parents also have an exhaustive timeline these days. So they're understanding their needs and preferences as to if they're working or how many hours they're investing, or is there anybody else in the house that can also facilitate learning. Once this is done, the specialist takes both into account, the child's needs and the parents' needs, and creates an IEP. Now, what the IEP looks like in Guru is something like this. There are three components to it. There's the activity part, progress report, and mood tracker. The activity is given in a daily format and can also be viewed in a monthly or weekly format. Now, the goal is defined as to what the child should be able to do in a specific timeline. And what the activity is explained, and the resources that are required to facilitate it are also given. So in terms of digital resources, it's provided by the app, or it could be some DIY resources which the parent could use from their house itself. The progress report is something to analyze as to how the child is. These are questions related to how the child has done the activity, such that further activities can be made and it can be tracked as to what the needs of the child are in a better and efficient manner. This could be viewed by the parent as well as the specialist, giving both of them the opportunity to understand patterns and progress. As important as education is, so are the emotional needs of these children. So apart from the educational tracker, we have something to track the mood of the child, the response to the activity, and also the mood in general of the child for the day. Additional comments can also be given out, and this again can be viewed in daily, weekly, monthly reports to understand patterns in different ways. So basically, the impact that we try to create is to empower parents to provide quality education to their children. We are giving the specialists a better understanding of the child so that they can build an impactful plan for them. And we are trying to foster a safe and engaging learning environment for the children. The scope for this, we look at forming communities of children and parents where they can discuss and learn from each other. We can look at different special needs. In this case, we don't need to restrict ourselves to anyone. Also, forming a global access to information and support from multiple locations, from anywhere. And if there are more than one children at home, they can group them and there can be a co-learning environment created. So what we do is we are trying to say that Guru aims to foster hope and resilience to the millions of specially abled children who are currently unable to attend school by making quality education accessible to them. Thank you. Yeah, that was it.
Thank you so much, team. That was really amazing, the approach that you have followed. Thank you. So now that was team one that presented. That was the first team of the Designathon finale, and we will be having two more such presentations. And I know that people are really excited to know who the winner is. I hope team one has kind of impressed the judges, and we will be announcing the winner in the end. So that particular winner announcement will be there. And I really look forward to such more generic, specialized presentations by other teams also. So let's go ahead and meet our second guest speaker of the evening. Moving forward to our second guest speaker of the evening, Rakesh Patwari. Rakesh Patwari is a passionately curious dad who designs, enables designs, and teaches design. Currently a director of product design at Salesforce and adjunct professor at UC Berkeley, San Francisco. For the last 19 years, he has worked at startups, large enterprises, and consulting firms across industries and geographies that enriched him with an assortment of diverse experience. Some of his former employers and clients include Juniper Networks, Apple, LinkedIn, Cognizant, and Aerohive Networks. He is an autodidact designer and believes in the ideology of lifelong learning. He actively gives back to the community by hosting free workshops and mentors at startups, and often speaks about design, storytelling, leadership, and security. Originally from a small town near Hyderabad, India, now calls the Silicon Valley his home and lives with his lovely wife Srisha and 11-year-old son Riddhiman. So let's go ahead and listen to Rakesh's talk. Over to you, Rakesh.
So, hello. What's up, everyone? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, from wherever you're logging in. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I hope everyone is staying positive and testing negative in this new unprecedented world. The words like new normal, social distancing, and quarantining have become the new cliche terms, and they are being used an unprecedented number of times. And throw in the words like, you're on mute, can you hear me? You have our daily lexicon there. So these words nowadays are occupying our head spaces, right? But you also need to make some space for more positive words like hope and resilience. Yes, I sincerely hope the usage of these words gets higher and higher and goes up as we move on. So let me start first by thanking all of you. Thank you, the team at ValueLabs, for having me, for inviting me, and thank you all attendees for investing your time to listen to me. I hope you all get value worth your time. With that said, let us move on. I get it. It is hard for you to listen to a stranger. I don't know what Ankit introduced, but someone especially strange as me, it's hard. So let me help it by introducing myself. I'm Rakesh Patwari, HD. Well, yeah, it is a husband and a dad who designs. I design and who also enables design. I am the fortunate one who gets to front end the work of my team as a director of design at Salesforce in San Francisco. And I also get a chance to teach and talk about design in conferences like this, but mostly teach at UC Berkeley. I teach design there. And whenever I get a chance, I like to share my knowledge over conferences, podcasts, and things like that. But it looks like a lot, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It is a lot. It's a lot of work. And for that, I'm forever grateful for my family, my wife, and my son for being supportive throughout the journey. And let us get started. When I was reached out, when we contacted about this, the talk was about resilience. We wanted to talk about resilience, and this talk is slightly different from the normal ones that I do. I'm not going to teach. I'm not going to give you a knowledge about design or anything, but we'll talk about resilience, what we think. And this is something I've been passionately doing research and learning about over the period of a few months now, whenever this thing started. So whatever I'm going to share is a synthesis of my learnings, reading, and research. And we all of us have an understanding of what resilience means to varying degrees. So let us come to a common page. Let me share this definition of resilience by J.H. Block and Carmen and Lazarus in one of their documents. They say that resilience is characterized by the ability to bounce back from negative emotional experiences and by flexible adaptation to the changing demands of stressful experiences. I know it's a mouthful. So in simpler terms, it is the ability to bounce back from setbacks and the ability to grow from those challenges and changes. This is what we talk about as resilience. Well, and every one of us have stories of resilience in our life. And we have faced some challenges, some difficulties, and have bounced back. And all of us are inherently resilient, right? Sometimes we need to just get reminded. And this talk, I hope, will help you remind you that all of us are resilient. And all of us have such stories. It's not, resilience stories are not about just surviving a war or facing extreme adversities. It could be any situation where you had to face a setback, where you almost felt that you wanted to give up and bounced back. Small or big, we all have those stories of resilience. Talking about stories, let me tell you a story about a kid, a 16, 17-year-old kid from India, from south of India, who dreamed of being a computer engineer, like most of us. So this middle class kid from a small town wanted to become an engineer at one of the prestigious colleges in India, one of the Ivy Leagues of India, which is the IIT. He worked very hard. He joined courses, he toiled very hard, but was not able to get a seat. For him, it felt like a failure. He felt like he was good for nothing. His dreams of IIT crashed in front of him. Luckily, he was offered a paid seat in a reputed engineering college far away from his hometown, and they were happy. And their parents had to amass a lot of fee for that because it was a paid seat, and it was almost 10 times their monthly salary that they had to pay up, which they did. So with hopes and dreams, the kid went to the college and hoping that he would become an engineer, but only to realize that he had been a victim of a scam. There was no seat, there was no admission, and all the money was gone down the drain. He was devastated. His dream crumbled again, and he felt like a failure and thought his life meant nothing. But he mustered up the last ounce of courage with his family, with his parents and his brother. They were looking for possibilities. And then they found out there is a new course completely that there was a possibility to get admitted into, and it would be close to his hometown too. So compromising on that, giving into the situations, he joined into that college. He refocused on his ambition of becoming a computer engineer, and he joined the course. And soon enough, he was able to secure his dream job before he turned 20. Well, this small story is an example of resilience in action of a kid. It sounds very small to us now, but it was a matter of life and dreams for that 16-year-old. So psychologist John Leach, who spent most of his career studying survival, writes that there are two types of survival behavior. One is intrinsic, and the second one is extrinsic. Intrinsic survival is supported by our daily regular routines that we do in our normal environment. And the extrinsic survival means we have to develop those new behaviors that when we are faced in a situation which we have to take up. So that also defines our resilience, how resilient we are. And a part of how resilient we are is dependent on the childhood and upbringing, the care that we have taken. But it boils down to these intrinsic and extrinsic behaviors. And you know what? The good news is most of these behaviors that help us build resilience and that muscle of resilience is intrinsic for us designers. Yes, you designers have those muscle that we have intrinsic. We exhibit those behaviors day to day. We exhibit those behaviors every day that makes us resilient. How awesome is that? You are curious to know what? Let us jump into it. So let us see how we can build and exercise that resilience muscle, and that will help us get back up when life throws punches at us. I'll share 3 key strategies that we can start doing now. We are already doing it, but let us realize that and do more of it and become more resilient. First, reframe, refocus, and regulate. What does that mean? So Imagine your day-to-day life as a designer, you have that muscle. So when you are given a design project with an objective, say, this is the product, you need to increase the conversions. We as designers, or a good designer, would not jump into it trying to change the buttons and sizes of the fields. We would want to dig deeper, go with an open mind, and identifying what's causing the underlying problem. We see through the overarching problem. We see through the overarching problem, right? And reframe the problem statement. That is exactly what I mean by reframing. Look at the stress as a challenge, not as an opportunity, not as a threat, and approach it with that curiosity and open mind that we approach every day as a designer, which leads to an extremely important virtue, awareness. Start by being aware of the adversity. The challenge in this life of a pie example, be aware that there is a tiger you have to live with. Understand that shit happens. It happens. Don't be in denial. Take it and reframe it. Admiral James Stockdale, he was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 7.5 years, and his words of wisdom are called as the Stockdale Paradox, which will help us reframe. He gives a framework that will help us, a concept that will help us reframe. In a nutshell, it says, have faith, but confront reality. Face the reality. Yes, this is shit. I know that, and I have to deal with it. I have to be patient and formulate a plan to tackle it. And that doesn't mean you should be overly optimistic. Tackle it day by day, bit by bit. Be aware that there is no normal to come back to, and nobody knows the end of the story. But in the end, you shall prevail. You will be remaining as a winner. And this adversity that we are facing now will be a defining event or experience that will make you stronger. Just a second. Yeah. Hold on to your core ambition. Here in this example of life of pi, the life is simple as life. And in that example of the student becoming an engineer, hold on to that core ambition and believe in your own future. Be aware that we are a part of something larger than ourselves. Lean into your faith, spirituality, and family or community. Treat these as valuable learning moments. I repeat, we will survive and tell tales of this adversity to our future generations with pride. Next is refocus. Designing under constraints is not new to us, right? Business constraints, technical constraints, budget limitations, time constraints are all something that we know exist. And a designer's strength is to build solutions that work with that boundaries. This is exactly what is needed at the second strategy, that is focus. We know that in real life, there are different things we have control on, and in some things we don't have control on. And this understanding is essential for us. Refocus on what we can control, refocus and reframe constantly. Using that muscle of designer, flex your creativity, you have it in you. Flex your creativity to envision the future possibilities. Come out with explorations. Zoom in, zoom out of the tree view versus the forest view. So with an honest lens of pragmatism. So focus on what we have control on the positives, and be ruthlessly intentional in making progress towards that envisioned outcome. Regulate. The third strategy is to regulate. Yet another practice we designers are familiar with. We do that all the time. It is about keeping a close watch on the results of the outcomes, thinking about and observing the effects of our intentional actions. However, it's a little tricky for real life adversities. We have to watch our emotions, feelings, and well-being and the progress that we are making otherwise. There is one important question that Dr. Lucy Hone tells us that will help us regulate is, whenever you're doing a certain action in terms of adversity, question yourself, will this harm me or help me while I'm dealing with what I'm dealing? This simple yet powerful question. So let us bring this home by iterating the key things that you have heard today. This is one slide that I would want you to take with you, if not anything else. One, we all have our own stories of resilience. Resilience is a muscle that can be built, and we designers are lucky to have that muscle inbuilt. And there are three key strategies that we can overcome. One, reframe, which means accept the shit and know that you will prevail and nobody knows the end of the story. Refocus on what we can control, envision the possibilities, practice gratitude, and be intentional. Regulate. Ask yourself, is this helpful or harmful? Be agile with your thoughts and emotions. So, in case you are wondering what happened to that kid later in his life, well, it is during his college, he found the love of his life. Well, not a woman, but Photoshop, which changed the course of his life. And that wannabe engineer is now a designer speaking to you. Let me leave with this. Before we close, one last thing, Ankit, one last thing for all of the participants. Just take a second and think about an adversity. This tiger is the adversity that you have, a challenge that you're facing now, no matter how small or big, and repeat after me. Would you? If you want to mute, unmute, that's okay, but repeat after me. Look it in the eye and repeat, I am resilient. I will not let it set me back. I will reframe, refocus, and regulate, and will emerge victorious. Let me repeat. I am resilient. I will not let it set me back. I will reframe, refocus, and regulate, and will emerge victorious. Thank you.
So that was Rakesh Patwari, and thank you so much, Rakesh, for those valuable thoughts on how we can apply design principles to become more resilient in life. Thank you so much. Now, everyone, if you have any questions, do write it in the Q&A section. We will be picking up the top questions for the Q&A session later. Moving on to the second Designathon finalist presentation, greatest team since sliced bread is going to come over now and present their ideas on the topic of creating awareness, facilitating learning and education in the changing times. Over to the team. Yeah.
Hello, I'm just going to share my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, one all present here. We're the greatest team since sliced bread. The team includes Arjun, Arushi, and myself, Purav. We're master students at the National Institute of Design. For a brief moment, I'd like everybody on this call to step into the shoes of the parent of a 6-year-old. The pandemic has forced our lives indoors. Our children's lives are all confined within the four walls of the home. And while we still have Zoom to get on work calls and Google Hangouts to talk to friends and loved ones and WhatsApp to text that uncle in Kolkata, it's undeniable that the pandemic has had a severe impact on our relationship with the ecosystem. As a parent, I recognize that my child needs to step outdoors, spend some time in nature, but there is a growing trust deficit when it comes to the outdoors. I mean, I still get to venture out for work, for trivial things like getting groceries, but my child just spends all his day inside the room looking at a screen. But in the absence of a recourse, I'd much rather have him stay indoors than perhaps outdoors. Nature deficit disorder is the idea that human beings, especially children, as they're spending less time outdoors, manifests a wide range of behavioral problems in them. And with that understanding, we set out to create a solution. Our problem statement: how might we help children establish resilient relationships with their non-human ecosystems, things like flora, fauna, to allow holistic affective and cognitive development in them during and subsequent to a global pandemic. Now, recognizing that children were our primary stakeholders, we tried to understand their behaviors in the pandemic better. We realized that children have an active online presence, but more importantly, that this presence is closely tied to their identity in social groups, whether it's in their academic class, or among friends. In the new normal, children have been increasingly using digital platforms to communicate and maintain existing relationships with their friends, teachers, etc. And despite the colloquial assumption that parents are technology averse, parents have increasingly recognized the importance and relevance of technology in their children's childhood, given conscientious and pragmatic constraints. Children's experiences in the new normal are either virtual or largely stimulated by triggers that are mostly indoors. And any real world experience that a child has in the new normal can only be shared with parents or family. Given this understanding of children's behavior online and its importance in and relevance in the new normal, we saw an opportunity in leveraging games as a medium to engage children in activities centered around knowing and understanding their natural ecosystems better. Our solution, Trailblazer. Trailblazer is an application that attempts to establish a resilient and prudent relationship between children and their natural ecosystems. Trailblazer directs children to experience their natural ecosystems in curated safe spaces through meticulous consideration for security, health, and social distancing paradigms. It also provides children the ability to share their experiences with their friends in novel and engaging ways. Trailblazer is the combination of an application and a wearable. The wearable is a wristband which acts as a companion to the application and shares data with the parent's smartphone. A single button on the wearable dictates all modalities of interaction. So a single press to trigger a prompt, long press to answer a prompt, 5 repeated taps to send an SOS message to the parent. The wristband uses voice user interface as its primary mode of interaction. This allows healthy disengagement from screen time, but more importantly, also allows for more embodied interactions with nature. To better understand what the application is and what it does, let's look at a day in the life of Sunny. It's a lazy Sunday afternoon. Sunny's playing games on his parents' phone, and suddenly his band starts to vibrate. This is happening almost after a week. Sunny presses the button on his wearable, which brings the band to life, and it asks Sunny to go to his neighborhood park. Once at the park, Sunny presses the button and gets a prompt, and the prompt is to look for yellow objects. Sunny is excited, so he starts looking for yellow objects in his vicinity and spots a yellow stone. He long presses the button on his band to register that he has now found a stone. The band asks a series of follow-up questions to help Sunny better describe what he has found. In this case, it would be if the stone is sharp or smooth or what its size is. After a series of prompts and tasks, Sunny returns home where he onboards the Trailblazer app with his parent on his parent's phone with his parent. Based on the description of objects that Sunny's provided to the Trailblazer app, images are shown to Sunny. In case they resemble what Sunny encountered during his actual task, he can click yes, which adds this object in his asset collection. And in case they don't resemble on what Sunny's found, he'll just be shown images of similar objects where he can choose one to add something to his database. The Trailblazer app has two kinds of assets, collected and fantasy. Collected assets are objects found by Sunny during his exploration. And it's necessary to construct his stories around collected assets. The visual narrative that Sunny creates has to be centered around the objects he finds in nature. Adding these assets fetches Sunny 10 coins, which he can then use to unlock fantasy assets, which are in-app assets that make stories more richer and imaginative. Sunny can simply drag and drop assets into a scene to create his story, and children are given complete agency on their imaginative worlds that they want to create. Additionally, children can also add an audio rendition of their story to complement their visual narratives. Once complete, Sunny can post his story for his friends to see. If a friend of Sunny's likes or is interested in Sunny's story, he can express so by clicking on the interested button, and Sunny can either choose to donate his story to his friend or ask for a friend's story in exchange. Now it's increased, even though children are the least likely demographic in the pandemic to catch the virus. And people are 4 times more likely to catch the virus indoors than outdoors. And despite several agencies like the CDC suggesting some exposure to the outdoors, there is still palpable apprehension when it comes to stepping outdoors or getting out. What we were designing around, therefore, was a deficit of trust. And this made it extremely important to understand what safe spaces are in the context of this application. Safe spaces are carefully curated natural ecosystems in the vicinity of a child's residence. This allows kids to appreciate and understand ecosystems in spaces that are already familiar to them. We ensure social distancing and uh, health considerations are taken care of. And at several levels within the application, parents have the express agency to either modify or terminate a planned session for the child. But at the end of the day, the most important question is, why is this application important? Why should children engage in imaginative play and construct stories? The interactions allow in this application allow children to create inherent value in non-human entities that they would otherwise be nonchalant towards. In creating stories, children assign value and personalize these natural entities as their own by constructing their own stories. Through our secondary research, we also found out that childhood anxiety disorders were on the rise in the new normal. Imaginative storytelling allows children to better cope with their anxiety stresses. Imaginative storytelling develops neurological connections in children's brains and help them in their all-round cognitive development. Wordplay, paracosms, and imaginative stories show a direct correlation with creativity and maturity. Moreover, the application allows for more embodied interactions with nature through collective participation of both the parent and the child. All of this makes this application prudent for kids to rekindle with nature, an old friend that they have perhaps somehow forgotten. To leave everyone that's on this call with a quote, it would be this: of all the paths that you take in life, make sure a few of them are dirt. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, team. It was really a great presentation. And I really liked your team's name as well.
Thank
Rated team since sliced bread. So that is some innovation in the way you have named your team as well. So kudos to the team. And thank you so much for presenting your ideas to everyone today. So I'm sure there's a lot of excitement here to know who is the winner of Designathon 2020 and win INR 1 lakh prize money today. But we'll have to wait. We are going to take a short break now. We will start again in 10 minutes. And we have a very interesting guest speaker talk remaining. And a Designathon finalist presentation is also remaining, guys. Apart from that, we have some of the IYTs here with us of the 2020 DI series. So we will hear from them. And also, in the end, we'll announce the winner of Designathon, who will take home the prize money of INR 1 lakh. So stay tuned, guys. Meanwhile, please share your thoughts about the conference on social media with the hashtag DIC 2020. And we'll again meet in the next 10 minutes. Thank you. Hi, everyone, and welcome back from the break. So let's go ahead and meet our third guest. Introducing the third guest of the evening, Beau Sullivan. A little bit about Beau. Beau leads experience design at Mitchell with an intense focus on applying customer-centered design thinking principles to deliver solutions that drives measurable business value. An inventor of Mitchell's innovation framework, he actively explores disruptive technologies and partnership opportunities, and has a keen interest in using machine learning and AI to solve meaningful human problems. So we are very excited to listen to Beau. So over to you, Beau, for your presentation.
All right, thank you for that warm introduction there, Ankit. So good evening to those in certain time zones, or afternoons, or bright and early in the morning, as the case might be for myself. So it's a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate the honor of being able to speak with everyone today. Let me get my screen sharing here working. So I'm going to talk to you this evening, for most of you probably, about a topic which is near and dear to my heart, and that is inclusivity and accessibility. So it was actually pretty interesting when Cadbury invited me to speak with you all a few months ago, I guess now, and told me that the topic was going to be hope and resiliency. I was really taken aback. I thought that was definitely in line with the theme of this inspiration, and it kind of forced me to think about what I wanted to present a little bit. All right, I was going to speak about design principles, which was something that we spent a lot of time investing in at Mitchell, and I started to do research into principles around resiliency. And one of the things that came up was the idea of diversity and inclusion. And I thought, wow, something that I've been working on at Mitchell for a while is accessibility. I thought, what a perfect opportunity for me to maybe stretch myself a little bit and not present on something which I'm have spent that much time on, but just something which is new to me. So speaking of me, a little bit more about myself and why I'm here today. So I've actually been at Mitchell for about 20 years now. All right, take a deep breath, reset. So what I was saying, and now you can kind of see, is that I am not an accessibility expert. It's something which throughout my career has not been at the forefront until recently. I would say in the past 2 years, accessibility is something which has really become a focus of mine. And what's interesting about that is that, the company I work for, Mitchell, has actually been in business for over 75 years. And we are a technology-enabled services company for the property and casualty insurance space. And we do enterprise software for business to business. So what's been interesting about that is, while we have a broad range of products who are used by tens of thousands of people all over North America and Europe, the vast majority of them have not really catered to accessibility yet. It hasn't really been a big priority for our company, and it hasn't really been a demand by our clients until recently. And this really is starting to change. So I say accessibility is not a priority yet, because it's becoming that. And it's become one of those things that for me has become a personal investment in helping Mitchell on its journey. I really was inspired by the presentation that Rakesh gave a little bit about resiliency. He was talking about the tigers, and I'm looking at transforming Mitchell and getting them to embrace accessibility as part of the core competency for their products. And that's a little bit of my tiger. It's been a challenge, but I'm not giving up, and I'm working on it. And what I'm going to share with you today, I think, is maybe a combination of a little bit of inspiration as far as what I've been learning about this, as well as some kind of very practical and pragmatic takeaways that new designers, new in their careers, or even old designers like me who are learning new tricks can kind of apply to start thinking about inclusivity and accessibility. And I think that's really interesting, that when the terms that we use, how they describe things, particularly in this space, when we talk about accessibility, something I became more recently familiar with is this concept of inclusive design. So I love this quote that unless you consciously include, you will unconsciously exclude. And I think that's really important, because when we think about designing experiences, designing products for resiliency, the more people, the more diverse audience, the more folks out there who can appreciate these and interact with these, the better off that everyone will be. So these two terms, inclusive design and accessibility, are related, but they're not really the same thing. And inclusive design, as I've come to learn, is a much bigger thought. The idea that we will draw on the full range of design principles and processes to make our solutions and websites and products available to as many folks as possible under a range of circumstances. Accessibility being the qualities of that experience, which are really coming to life within the features and the functionalities and how the website or product allows the inclusion, allows people of these varying abilities, of these various backgrounds and situations to actually enjoy and take advantage of it. So by focusing on accessibility, we are enabling inclusivity is one aspect of it. And what's pretty interesting, I think, is as I've come to learn is accessibility isn't just for folks who might be suffering some sort of impairment or some sort of disability, but it really does make it better for everyone across the board. So whether you're thinking about folks who have challenges with their vision, folks who are maybe getting on in the years, a little bit older, who are younger, people with cognitive disabilities, the idea that accessibility can really help everyone, to me, that's powerful. So that we're not focusing and limiting things, we're actually making them bigger and broader. Something which I also learned, which I think was pretty powerful, and I'm definitely going to give some credit to Microsoft's Inclusive Design Toolkit here, which I've even borrowed some of their lovely illustrations, is that disabilities or impairments aren't something which need to be totally permanent, meaning that, at one point it was thought about a disability was a health-related thing that was kind of with you, and it was just, perhaps even the stigma. But when we think about the idea of impairments and disabilities, that there are things which can happen which are transient. So the little illustration here, the idea that, there are some people who only have a single arm. And if you look at the number there, the statistics are, I think in the United States, about 26,000 people a year are affected and they lose one of their limbs. But there are also a lot more people who, due to some sort of transient situation, may have injured themselves, broken an arm, hurt their hand, and they are only able to use their hand for a period of time. And similarly, the idea of someone who has their hands full, and as a new parent, for example, I myself, my daughter just turned 6, and I know very well what it was like carrying around a child carrier and being able to only use one hand. So the idea that a new parent who has their baby in an arm, is that a disability? No, but perhaps it's a temporary impairment, something which is affecting your ability to use a product or a website. These are things which are really affecting people's lives. And as I was looking at this broad spectrum of accessibility and trying to make a case for how important it is, being able to look at it through the lens, not necessarily of all of the requirements and guidelines and specific legal things that are out there. You're not going to really hear me talk about that. We're really looking at it from the human aspect and the idea that people might have these impairments, and the more that we can humanize and relate to folks who, for either permanently or for some period of time, are being impaired, how can we look at being inclusive by not just having our own biases for how we might use a product or service, but how we might be able to open our minds and be able to design it in a way that is beneficial to them, and so that they can also use it. So looking at through that lens, thinking about all the people in the workforce, all the customers that we serve, what are some of the challenges that they have? And one of the things we came up with was, without trying to boil the ocean and looking at everything, some of the very common things are related to dexterity impairments, people who have some ability to maybe not be able to use a mouse, maybe they're using assistive technologies to have the screens read to them, maybe they're using a screen reader, and other people who are perhaps suffering from some sort of chronic pain, in which case they might be using medication and having some sort of cognitive challenges associated with these. And of course, vision, people who are low vision, people who are blind. These are some of the most common impairments. So after thinking about that a little more, looking at what most folks in the industry look at as the main reference point is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG as it's pronounced. So the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, it comes in various flavors. The most current one which I recommend that everyone take a look at, is 2.1. It was actually ratified and recommended since 2018. But the four main principles in there for WCAG guidelines are making content and things which are perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. And those principles really become the pillars by which all of the decisions can be made and all of the other guidelines are crafted. So we went through an exercise and we're looking at the impairments and the guidelines and came up, and this is a little bit of an eye chart, but I wanted to emphasize this mapping that by starting with the impairments, things which are cognitive impairments, dexterity impairments, or sight impairments, we can then look at how these impairments are impacting people and their ability to use products and services, and looking at that as a ability to looking at that as it relates to particular guidelines. So that was the approach that we took. That set us up to have this strategy. So we decided that we wanted at Mitchell to focus on being WCAG 2.1 AA compliant and have focusing in on these particular impairments, low vision and dexterity. So we decided to focus on color standards and keyboard navigation as our starting points, and we decided to use automated testing tools which were freely available. What you can see on the right side there is an output of some of the first times we ran a accessibility toolkit called Accessibility Insights made by Microsoft against some of our products, and you can see all the errors highlighted in red. What I'm going to show you now is a couple of the first guidelines that we put in place for our designers to start tackling these problems that we found. One of the most prevalent problem we found was this contrast ratio. Most of the red boxes you saw on the previous screen were contrast ratio. By using a tool called the Web Aim Contrast Checker, we were able to go in there and start changing. Ultimately, we ended up changing our background colors to achieve this 4.1 or 4.5 to 1 contrast ratio. Something else, a very important thing we were focused with our designers is not just relying on color as the only visual means to convey information. You can see an example, some screenshots of it. I think it was PayPal on the right there, where you can see that if all we have is a red border indicating that there's an error, if someone is colorblind, that is completely lost on them. So in addition to color, we always want to use some sort of shape or symbol, as well as some textual information as possible to convey information. Another really important one, which is certainly related to touch, but also anyone who is using a keyboard, is hover. So not relying on hover to be a primary means of interaction. So we are really looking to have this serve people who have any sort of motor related abilities, challenges using a mouse, and are relying on a keyboard for navigation. Similarly, along these veins, allowing people to navigate with the keyboard is having a very evident focus state. So as you press tab and go through the user interface of a product, you should be able to follow that focus state around on the screen. And speaking of which, it's really important for that to have a good flow so that the tab order and the flow of control on the screen goes in a very logical way. And of course, all of these specific guidelines are really mapped to those WCAG guidelines, which will ultimately make you compliant. So as you can see, I'm just going to give you a quick screenshot here. This is what we were looking at before when we ran our automated testing tool. After applying some of these principles and some of these guidelines, we are at a point now where we are starting to address a few of them. So in a nutshell, I wanted to thank you for the time that I got to speak with you today. Hopefully, I was able to teach you a little bit about inclusivity and accessibility design, and a little bit about the journey that I'm going on, and trying to be a little more resilient as we approach this. So thank you.
Thank you, Beau. Thank you so much for that inspiring talk, on creating resiliency through inclusive design. Thank you. Just reminding all the attendees again that if you wish to ask anything to Beau, please let us know in the Q&A section. We'll be shortly having the Q&A session with all the 3 guest speakers, and whatever the top questions are, we'll definitely ask our guest speakers. Okay, so now moving on to tonight's last presentation by Team Firebolt for Designathon 2020. Now, this is the last team who is going to present today. And the theme that we gave to all the teams was to facilitate learning and education through design interventions. And let's see what approach this team has followed. So over to you, Team Firebolt.
Thank you, Ankit. Just a second, I'm just sharing my screen. So hi, everyone. I'm Sanjana, and my teammates are Nunali and Sakshi. We're all master students at Srishti Institute of Art, Design, and Technology, and we are Team Firebolt. Yes, just a second. So this is the solution, actually, concept that we've come up with during the Designathon, called Know Your Platform. So the theme is adapting to the changing times while creating awareness, facilitating learning and education. This was the theme that was given to us. So this is the process that we went with, the double diamond framework, so that we could diverge and converge at different phases of our research and design. So initially we started asking ourselves this question: what is the major issue that we faced during the pandemic and lockdown? So we realized it is social isolation for most of us. So we went on in that angle to research a little bit to understand that concept. And we realized humans are inherently social creatures who learn and grow in a community so that they can find an identity. So after this, we kind of diverged to understand remote learning, which is now touted as a new normal. And this was kind of done so that our students can have undisturbed and peaceful continuation of learning during the lockdown. But the study showed otherwise, like a recent study by Yordos on around 8,000 individuals in Delhi showed that students were feeling most burned out by the entire lockdown situation. Most of them, half of them almost showed increase in anger, irritability, frustration, anxiety. They felt lonely, sad, and hopeless. So we tried to understand what kind of social connections are involved when students are trying to learn remotely. Who are the people that they're connected to? What kind of interactions happen? What are their issues and frustrations? What tools do they use? And what are the outcomes of these interactions? So we kind of came down to realize that students are missing a lot of things during the remote learning time. So they miss interacting with their classmates. They miss the little connections and conversations they have over a cup of chai and samosa. The entire deep connections that they make while doing little activities on campus and things like that, all these are kind of lost in the period of lockdown. So we kind of went ahead and understood what are the benefits of learning, peer learning. So it gives you a collective and collaborative learning experience. You get to express your thoughts and ideas confidently. That also improves your soft skills. And most importantly, peers give each other a lot of emotional support when you have to deal with deadlines, assignments, and exams. For example, when we were in school and we forgot our textbook for a class, you will be punished for that. But you feel really scared. But when you realize that there's another peer who also forgot the textbook, then it is less scary because there is someone in there with you who's going to, also get the flag for it. So that kind of little support also means a lot. So we kind of narrowed down to these two spheres: online learning and social connectedness. And then when we kind of intersected it, we could see peer learning. And we are like, okay, can we intervene somewhere in this area to help students be more resilient? So we kind of storyboarded it. Well, the student here is very happy in the classroom atmosphere. She could collaborate with her classmates and it was easy to learn. And all of a sudden during the pandemic, she was all alone. And her friends did try to connect over something like Zoom, and they had faced connectivity issues. They had scheduling issues. Everybody spoke at once. There's so much going on and they had to deal with it all alone, feeling really sad and anxious. So then we kind of decided, okay, let's do this. Let's kind of plot all the benefits from peer-to-peer learning. And then how was it before COVID and how was it during COVID and what are the effects that is having on students? And this kind of validated our research. So this is the design statement we came to create an environment where college peers feel more comfortable in meeting new peers and also share their learning and knowledge resources with each other. So from this, we came for 4 design goals. 1, to encourage teamwork and mentoring among peers. 2, make them feel comfortable when approaching each other. 3, inform them about the peer-to-peer learning and values of peer-to-peer learning. And 4, how can we modify peer-to-peer learning online? Then we went ahead and did the how might we exercise, where for these 4 goals, we listed what kind of possible interventions can we do to achieve them. And that's when we got to the concept of Know Your Peer platform. It's a digital platform, which is easy to adapt and is interactive. So to achieve those 4 goals, these are our 4 interventions. 1, we have to make an environment where they can form new connections, not just new, but also maintain the ones that are old pretty strong. And then encourage students to share knowledge with each other, tackle the pressure of examinations and deadlines, have study groups, and to do all these 3 things, create a safe environment as well. So here's the storyboard very quickly. So yes, the pandemic and the students all alone. So now they go on to the KYP platform. So they kind of put up the things that they're interested in. That could be from thermodynamics to stand-up comedy. And then they kind of get connected to the peers who are interested in the same area. So they discuss what is happening, and to encourage that this kind of conversation continues, to know that everybody's going through the same thing, everybody's struggling with the same thing. We thought, we should kind of gamify it to encourage them, give them badges when they do something nice over the platform. That is when, we moved to prototyping our features. So 1, how do we create the safe environment? So for this, we thought using college ID to set up profile is a good way to go. So now that the profile is verified and limited to only 1 profile, 1 ID for 1 profile. So there is a very less chance of abusing an unknown peer. That way, creating a safer environment. Feature 2, meet new peers and exchange knowledge. So this is how it goes. When you log in, you enter the things that you like, and then you get matched upon the points that you've shared. And then you kind of get a prompt for an automated message where you can just send that if you have anxiety as to what should I type, to connect with this new peer. And the 3rd feature is to create study groups or, to share resources, add goals and nudge people. So basically, automatically you see, according to the courses you're enrolled, you can see the study groups that are available. And then, or else you can also create a new group as well. So these groups are not only pertaining to study. You can also go and do something about just a chai time wala group. So yes, this is how it works. So you can see the first screen of where the resources are shared, what kind of resources are shared. And the second screen, you can also set a goal if you want for yourself or for the entire class. If anybody wants to follow a goal, they can follow the goal. You can see, you can complete the tasks. And then you can send nudges to the people to congratulate them when they complete the task, or else nudge them to, pick it up. So, and the 4th feature is where you get to refer your known contacts to other people to help them expand their network. So if you know other peers who can help your friends, so you can refer them through this feature. You can refer the person via a message. And then if the person accepts to help the other person, they'll have 3 days to respond over that and connect to the person who actually asked for help. So yeah, and the feature number 5, this is the gamification part. So every time you do things like creating a new group or creating a fun activity where people could come and entertain, you get a group initiator badge. When you connect 2 people through the referral feature, you get a connecting people badge, which keeps them going in the process. So coming to the limitations, we also realized that this can also increase the remote validation part, which could like the constant nudging and the progress tracking could also lead to more tension and anxiety. So because we didn't get to test it with the users, so this is something we have to check, that we are not contributing more to the anxiety part, and how can we limit this nudging and pressure. And also there is obviously increase in screen time because of using this. And yes, the levels of expert, intermediate, novice that students say they are in a particular topic is self-proclaimed. So there is no factor telling them if it is true true or not. I mean, so yeah. So here comes future scope. So we can also have mental health experts or student board leaders on the platform to help facilitate emotional support. We've all been going through, I mean, unimaginable things during the pandemic. So we all need somebody. And then we also want to see how can we make the platform more organic and casual. So yeah, we can also tinker it and go to the workspace environments and see how peers can connect there. So that is it. Thank you. We are Team Firebolt. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present at DIC.
Thank you, Team Firebolt, for that wonderful presentation. We'll shortly see which team goes on to win Designathon 2020. Okay, so now let's go ahead with the much awaited Q&A session. We have got some very good questions with us, and we will have that Q&A with all the three guest speakers. So I will let Kadambari take over now, and over to you, Kadambari, for the Q&A.
Can we please have Rakesh, Beau, and Namita on video, please? All right, so I'm going to ask you some of the questions that attendees have asked. I'll start with Namita first. Namita, my question to you is, what is the biggest challenges in the B2B industry at the moment?
Wow, that's a very big question. There are quite a bit of challenges, at least from the design perspective. I see that, understanding the value of design and designers itself. So at least that is what we have been, working on, creating models and processes and tools to support designers so that they can bring the needed value. Of course, there is always this overarching need coming out from different stakeholders in the business. And then the other aspect towards the other end of the business, which is the end users. There in B2B, there is quite many different kind of stakeholders to address to. So sometimes it becomes quite difficult to find the real end user. But I guess that's the business to business environment. I'm sure we all could agree to that.
All right. My second question is to Rakesh. And the question is that how do we focus on human-centered designs with limited access to physical setup and meeting, which are in current scenarios?
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it's a challenge for everyone. Like this pandemic has opened up kind of worms, to say the least. So, I mean, it is very hard. Like some of the presentations were discovering that we are missing that human touch, human to human interaction, where we kind of discuss the water cooler talks. All of that is being challenged. And if I understand the question right, it is about how do we get that human interaction and the collaboration and the aspects of that human-centered design when we are not able to have that office setup. Yeah. So it is a hard question. I don't think we have a straightforward or single silver bullet answer. Everybody is struggling to do that, but we could leverage the technology to whatever extent we can. We do have Zooms, but what we do, I can share what we are doing to kind of keep our design process going is we try to use these collaboration tools like InVision Freehand and Google Jamboards. We also use Miro and try to have as much as collaborations as possible. We do have some design jam sessions every week, like 2 to 3 hour slots where all the design team are welcome to join in. We can jump in, jump out, and we kind of have a collaborative discussion there that way. That's another way that we are trying to tackle it. And if it is in terms of having access to the users, we always had this option of doing sessions, remote sessions with the users, because not all of our users are in one place all the time, even when the offices were open. So that is kind of going as planned. We work with the researchers, recruit, use the technologies that I said to kind of keep the research going and incorporate that as much as possible. Yeah, I hope it answered. This is what I could offer.
Thank you for your answer. My next question is to Beau. And Beau, how do you think that companies can seriously rethink about the inclusive design?
Seamlessly is, I think, a bit of a challenge. I think the inclusive design is definitely a journey. that each company has to kind of come at with their own perspective as far as where it makes sense as far as their maturity. So, when companies are first starting to get their products and services off the ground, it might, I would say traditionally it probably hasn't been at the forefront of their minds. But I think as designers, that's something that we can kind of bring to the table to change the conversation there, and being able to make a case for why designing inclusively and trying to make products and services which are embracing as wide an audience as possible really does start giving you a competitive advantage. And I think that, one of the things I'm learning is, how do you make a business case for this? How do you make it make business sense? And that is definitely one of the primary arguments that you can make. Personally, like when I think about the pinnacle of the rationale comes from, it's so purposeful, it's so human, it's so meaningful to be able to connect with as many people as possible from different walks of life and who have different capabilities. And if that is something that you can, pull that connection to business results, that can be a challenge. But if you start with that higher purpose, but then you can, kind of weave in that ability to, okay, well, actually there are benefits, whether they're being able to increase your total addressable market, whether you be able to, increasing your brand reputation. So there are connection points where you can kind of draw that line to bridge that gap between something which is perhaps a higher purpose to something which is tangible and can get you traction in a business world. Is it seamless? I don't know. It's definitely intentional though. It's something you have to focus in on. And as a designer and as a design leader, it all starts with that mindset of I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to make that connection. Hopefully that answered the question.
Thank you both. That's really insightful. My next question again is to Namita. Namita, the question is, how do you find a balance while collaborating with different disciplines?
So in the motion design team, we have, as I mentioned, there's 3 different design disciplines: UX, UI, service design, and industrial design. We do work quite very closely. For example, we start with a project where we see the service design takes off and understands the big picture of it, and then we jump into the digital touch points where UX, UI comes in. Of course, there is, because we are product-based company, there is industrial design, which is a very big and long time projects that we have. And those are the ones that kick off in the very first place. The industrial design projects are mostly 5 years or longer projects, but then they have this kind of segments where we bring in different disciplines to take care of the holistic approach of a product that is being made at ABB.
All right. Thank you so much for that answer. My next question is to Rakesh. And the question from the attendee is, what is one piece of practical advice that you would give to a young designer to build resilience?
Great question. Thanks for bringing that up. And I think that was the whole talk about. So what I would say is reframe, refocus, and sorry. Yeah, I would want you to look at those 3 aspects, the 3 strategies. What I mean by reframe is look at it if you're in design work, right? As a designer, if there is a failure or if you face some setbacks, it's about the job. It is about that particular task and not about you. Try to refocus, come out, look at the positives, look at the constraints, and try to build things within those constraints. Look at the positives that we have, positives that you may have, and then build on that. And the third is regulating. Look at the results that you are getting, look at the outcomes that you're getting, and kind of regulate. Is it going on the right track? Do I have to pivot? Do I have to course correct? And things like that always keep you on top of the design work. So being aware of the situation. If it is bad, it is bad, and try to move from there. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you for that. And my last question is for Beau. Beau, here the questioner has asked, what are your thoughts about inclusivity, which are dependent on language and societal differences? How do you bring about, inclusivity in such an environment?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it's pretty amazing as the world continues to get smaller and everyone continues to be more interconnected. I think so much of it just comes down to technology. Technology is solving problems for us that without it, I mean, you can't even imagine, right, what it would be like trying to go through this pandemic without Zoom. I mean, you know, Zoom was something a little bit ago, but suddenly, I mean, the world is Zoom, is certainly any folks in our working technology. When I think about some of the translation capabilities, like real-time translation, which is available now, I mean, that was, you know, 5 years ago, there was no such things, but with advances in computing power and artificial intelligence and natural language processing, I think that the capabilities which are available to many people, certainly not everyone, but many people certainly who are operating in our realm, we have those at our fingertips, and we have those capabilities. So being able to leverage technology, whether it's through translation, through natural language, voice recognition, to be able to offer that and have that inclusivity from a language perspective is very helpful. I think that as technology continues to evolve and become more affordable, more pervasive, that we will see this start to become more available across the board. And it's one of those things where, as a designer, knowing the full spectrum of people and the range that we are developing products and services for is really important. And especially if you're working with products or services which are not necessarily for, you know, focused on high tech and focused on that sort of industry, if there's an opportunity to be able to leverage technologies and kind of push that down, then that's something we can strive to. It's a challenge though. It's definitely a challenge for more rural, less advanced, less current situations, but I'll trail off there.
All right. Thank you so much for answering the questions today. They were really informative, educational, and I'm sure that opened up a lot of minds of a lot of students and design enthusiasts and designers here. Thank you so much, Namita. Thanks, Rakesh. Thanks, Beau.
Thank you, Kadambari.
Over to you, Ankit.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Kadambari, and thank you all the guests that are here. And it was really a great Q&A. We still have some other questions as well, but I think we'll move ahead and we'll keep those questions and send it to the speakers later on to get their remarks on them. So those were the speakers and the Q&A that we had. Moving on, we started the Design Inspire series to highlight and honor the young, inspiring designers across the globe. Now, this year we chose 10 such amazing designers who, in their varied fields, have done some an extraordinary job, and they have shared some amazing thoughts in the talks that we have had with them. So, without further ado, I would like to let you all know who are the 10 inspiring young designers of 2020 Design Inspire series. So let's see who all are there. These were the inspiring young designers of 2020 for the Design Inspire series. And we have some of them today with us, and we have asked them one specific question. So let me hand it over to CAD, and Kadambari, you can just let us know what their responses were to that question. Over to you, Kadambari.
Thank you, Ankit. So keeping in the spirit of the Design Inspire Talk series, I'm going to ask, we asked some questions, actually one question to all of our IYDs. And the question was, when the times are tough and uncertainties start plaguing, how can we hold our ground and design for hope and resilience, either in our lives or for our societies? So I'm going to ask all the inspiring young designers present in the call today to please come forward. And I'm going to start one by one. Let me start with Katrina first. Katarzyna, sorry. Katarzyna, can you go ahead and answer this?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, sure. So I think that as designers, we need to start thinking about how to bring social responsibility into our day-to-day work. I think that perhaps something like how we learned to do user research on an ongoing basis, right? To make sure that we are solving for the right user needs. I think that hope and resilience are super important regardless of the times we live in. Personally, for me, as a person who is seeing opportunities for improvement almost everywhere, it can get really exhausting. And hope for me means that I know that there is always a better way to do something. And resilience is for me about being really being able to confront those really tough issues and not to back down until they are sort of addressed. And I think both of those things are really critical because otherwise there really isn't much point in doing anything.
Great response. Thank you so much for your answer today, Kat. And I'm going to move on to the next Inspire IYD, as we call them. We'll go with Sebastian next. Sebastian, are you there?
Yeah, thanks first of all for the opportunity here and the invitation and setting this all up. So yeah, I'd like to think about that. Obviously, challenging times, but oftentimes in friction, this can also be a seed for progress and change very often. And I think exactly in kind of these kind of times where there is a lot of change happening, this is exactly where design and designer could come in and provide provide solutions and take part of that conversation, like aspects of environmental needs or social or mental needs. So like how could we bring them into the conversation when we, for example, developing a new product or service. So yeah, I think like progress oftentimes also doesn't come from a state of comfort. So I think we should also look at, and I think it's up to us if we just look at the negative side of things, but maybe we also see some opportunities and some things that we can now tackle. And yeah, I think it's a little bit up to us how we identify them. Yep.
Thank you for that response, Sebastian. May I call upon Vajanti next for her response, please?
Hi.
Hello.
So I would say I agree with everything that everyone's been saying. And just to add like a slightly different view, to find hope and resilience both from a perspective as a designer, but also personally, I would say perhaps start doing things wildly differently from what you considered normal, because there is no normal currently, and there might not ever be a normal. So kind of re-explore, or rather reimagine what a normal or several normals can look like by doing things differently. What I mean by that, some examples of that are stopping doing certain things, taking pauses. Maybe if you were following big trends, start following the quieter voices, maybe the more timid groups or less vocal groups of users, for example. Go find those hidden paths, and perhaps even in your approach, if you were very analytical, for example, you can break that mold, break that pattern, and start playing around a little, and maybe hope, inspiration, and a new path to resilience will emerge.
Thank you for your response, Vajanti. Some of our IYDs could not be here because of their prior commitments, but they've also sent their video response that we'll play now. So Anuja, over to you, please.
Hi. I just want to say that terrible and uncertain as this pandemic has been, if one really wants to look on the bright side, we can see that the event has exposed the cracks that we've been putting Band-Aid on for so many years, or the dust that we've brushed under the carpet in our previously normal day-to-day lives. How economic systems, policies, governance, and technology affect people's lives is under even greater scrutiny, and that's a welcome sign from some of the blindness that we've had in the past. And by being more mindful in everyday decisions, by questioning not just the what, but the how of every change that we wish to propagate in society, and by acknowledging the limits of our own capabilities, we can not just survive, but thrive as designers in this uncertain world.
Exactly a year ago in November 2019, if we were told that our lives would come to a standstill within the next couple of months, that idea would have sounded incredulous. As we adjust to the new normalcy, my advice to us designers would be to find the right balance between personal selfish goals on one hand and outward contributions on the other hand. In the world of design, we constantly discuss ideas like putting ourselves into the shoes of the users and being empathetic and being aware of the values we offer to the society. But all of that is really possible in a prolonged, sustainable way if we are truly aware of our own point of view and our own wellness as designers. Remember that as a designer, your superpower is the ability to articulate and express various human situations. So start by articulating and expressing your own.
I've often wondered what makes some people more resilient. I used to think that resilience is about marching forward and fighting with life, but now I think there's another way, and that is to step back and listen to life. All breakdown, all pain is feedback. To paraphrase Donald Schoen, it is often in the unintended consequences of our design that the situation we were designing for talks back to us. So how might we listen better to this feedback? In my experience, designers who care for this question are often the ones that end up designing systems that meaningfully respond to a crisis. And to those that I have seen practice this, something beautiful happens. They learn to trust life, trust crisis, and trust their own inner resourcefulness to respond. And to me, that is the final basis of hope.
Society is a well-oiled machine. It comprises of multiple parts that talk to each other. Traditionally, this machine has been rewarding efficiency, productivity, and money. What happens when one of these parts stop working? The entire machine stops. That's the kind of situation that we are in right now. That's exactly why during the lockdown, it was not the large corporates who put the food on the table, but it was the nearby Kirana stores who made sure that we get the food, and they are the ones who took care of us, right? Though most people look at it, the current situation as a crisis, I look at this as an opportunity to restart. Now, in this new normal, we will all go back to our whiteboards and start rethinking. Now, when we are rethinking, we will not only be tracking efficiency, we should also be tracking empathy. We will not only be rewarding money, we will also be rewarding kindness. And when that comes into picture, I believe designers will be the forerunners of it, and we will start with a seat on the table in the new normal. Thank you.
Thank you to all the IYDs who are there and who have shared their answer to the video. I think it's a great lineup that we created this year, and all the ideas and all the talks that we have had are still there on our YouTube channel, so people can refer to that. And we still have some of the designs that were not able to come and were not able to answer those questions, but we will shortly share those answers on our social media. So thank you, Kadambari, and thank you all the IYDs for to make this essentially happen. Because without them, this movement would not have started itself. So thank you, everyone. And now we believe that the Design Inspire series has helped the budding designers and design enthusiasts to uncover new ideas and to have more knowledge on the latest design inspirations globally. So the whole process that we have followed is in tune that can create a spark or a new way of looking at problems, and that can bring in new positive changes in the society. So we wish to officially launch our website, our fellowship program for 2021 Design Inspire, and a short book of inspiration, ebook that we have created. So let's see our website, fellowship program, and ebook through this AV. Just to let everybody know, whoever is attending this event, we will be sharing that ebook as a takeaway after the event. So all the memories that we have created in the past 6 months, curating and initializing this event of Design Inspire, you can just go through them through a small book of memories of Design Inspire. So we will be giving away that as a takeaway to everyone who's there. Okay, so now that we have gone through the inspiring designers and knowing them, let's go ahead to the Designathon winner announcement section. And may I call upon the judges of Designathon. So Amit and Kadambari, if you can come on video. Yeah. So I'll just go to Amit first, and just like to know, Amit, how was the experience of judging the Designathon 2020 this year?
Thank you. Yes, it was a difficult task being the juror of these entries. Some of them were really excellent, and especially given that the total time was just 24 hours. But what I must mention is that there were a number of entries dealing with old people, children, and the less abled, and how their lives could be made more easy, more comfortable, more inclusive, and more safe. I was very, very happy to see this. I would like to applaud the various groups that took part and made the effort, the extra effort, I'd say, to deal with design issues that are not tackled by the majority normally. Congratulations to all the teams, and thank you for being a special bit of empathy.
Sure, Amit. Yeah, we can see that how they have curated their design approaches towards these groups. Yeah, that is amazing. Over to Kadambari, how was your experience?
I think 24 hours is a very less time to design something, and 19 responded to that question wonderfully. They went ahead 24 hours, most of them sleepless, and tried to tackle something really big. So all of the ideas that they pour in contained a lot of their life experiences, something that they have actually, gone forth and actually experienced during this. Things were, we thought of, they imagined all of these circumstances into something that they could beautifully present and meaningfully put an idea to. So I'm very happy that, so many teams participated and they gave a real, big chance in terms of, giving hope in terms of solutions and, inculcating resilience in the whole system by looking at the different sort of solutions. The solutions range from industrial design to interaction design to system design. There were a lot of different ideas that came to our table, and it was amazing to hear them out. So yeah, amazing. I think the experience was wonderful.
Sure, Kadambari. So yeah, let's go ahead and first talk about the mini challenge now. Over to Amit to announce the mini challenge winner.
Thank you. So here we are. Mini challenge 1, there were 3 totally. Mini challenge 1 was creative team introduction, and the award goes to Coordinates. Congratulations. Mini challenge 2, best documentation on blog, goes to Tetris Odyssey. Congratulations to you too. And mini challenge 3, meme about Designathon 2020 experience, goes to Noodle Mug. Congratulations, all 3 of you. Excellent.
Many congratulations to the 3 teams. Okay, now Kadambari, we are going ahead with the Consolation Prize. So over to you. Let us know who is the winner of Consolation Prize of Designathon 2020.
So the Consolation Prize goes to the team Firebolt. Congratulations.
Congratulations to the team Firebolt. At this point, I would like a representative from Firebolt to speak about their experiences of Designathon. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the, I don't know what to say. Thank you for the Consolation Prize. And this is really great. So first of all, thank you for organizing this Designathon and also giving us the last top 3 teams the chance to present here, which was really great. And a very big thank you to Amit Sethji and Kadambari ji for all the amazing feedback that you gave us. So we're going to take that back and put it back into project and see what we can do with that. So really, we had a lot of fun while doing this. And yeah, I mean, we learned a lot also. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Team Firebolt, and congratulations to come here and present your idea to all of these people who have joined the conference. Like in the 90 teams, you are in the top 3. So kudos to that. Now we have 2 teams left, and I just wanted to let you guys know that now we are going to announce this winner of Designathon 2020. So over to you, Kadambari and yeah.
So the winner of Designathon 2020 is Light and Dark, isn't it?
Nice bread.
No, it is Light and Dark.
Nice bread.
All right, guys, both of the teams are winner because me and Amit cannot come to consensus because each of this team had strength in their own areas and we love the concept, both of them. So yeah, so it was a tie. But what we did was we understood that the first prize money, the winner would take home 1 lakh rupee. And we thought that, just tie would be splitting up into 50-50. And we didn't want it that. We wanted it to be more motivating than, just splitting it that way. So what we did instead is we went back and we raised the prize money to 1,50,000. So now winner takes home 75,000. Congratulations to both the team. You both are winner for us.
Amazing. Really amazing work, guys. And I would like to ask first the Light and Dark team representative to talk about the experiences and how they're feeling.
Hello. I would also like my teammate Urvi to come up because I think both of us should equally share this at this point. Urvi?
Yeah, so we would really like to thank ValueLabs for this great opportunity in these, terrible times. And we would like to thank all the children and the teachers at BM Institute of Mental Health and also at Satya Special School, who actually told us and taught us what hope and resilience is all about at these testing times. Then we would like to thank our college, National Institute of Design, Gandhinagar, and our parents for their, continuous support. And finally, the internet connection that did not give up on us. Yeah, so thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think the journey was really interesting from what started off, what are you doing over the weekend, to something being created at a really meaningful level. So I really thank you for that opportunity. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Team Light and Dark. Great
Thank
effort.
you.
Yes. Okay, now moving on to the greatest team since sliced bread.
I'd also like for my teammates to come on video if they can. First of all, I'd really like to thank ValueLabs and especially everybody on the organizing team for making this as smooth and amazing as it was. It feels really humbling to have won Designathon after the 24 hours of grueling work and no sleep. I'd also really like to thank both Kadambari and Amit. I think we got some tremendous feedback from both of them, and we definitely took that back, and we definitely think that that could be incorporated in making this a better solution for children all across the world.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity for us to be a part of this, and I'm so glad to be one of the winners. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, guys.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think Arushi, do you want to speak again? Do you want to go ahead as well?
It was a great opportunity. Thank you so much.
Congrats.
Congrats. Yeah.
Congrats to both the teams, and thank you, judges, for that awesome surprise in the end for the participants. I think it was really great. Okay, now that we have known who are the Designathon winners for 2020 are, let me just go ahead and ask Kadambari for the final vote of thanks for the conference. Over to you, Kadambari.
Thank you, Ankit. Thank you, everyone. I wish to extend my deepest gratitude to our speakers tonight, Namita Savla, Beau Sullivan, and Rakesh Patwari, for taking out time during this festive season of Thanksgiving weekend and sharing with us their thoughts, experiences, and wisdom. They have enriched us and inspired us to take on bigger challenges in life. I would also like to thank our inspiring young designers who not only shared their knowledge and experiences during the series, but also joined us today from various geographies and gave their responses to the question we put forward to them. I would like to thank ValueLabs, particularly our CEO, Arjun Rao, and SVP Operations, Bhanu Rampalli, for their encouragement towards this initiative and supporting it wholeheartedly to bring this knowledge free to the world. The entire UX group has worked above and beyond their working hours with much enthusiasm to make this happen. And last but not least, the Designathon teams who participated and attendees of the conference who made this success. We hope to see you in the coming year with new episodes and inspiration. Until then, thank you and namaste.